Good evening. You are listening to WRUW FM 91.1 Cleveland, and this is Voices and Choices.
Voices and Choices is a weekly pro-choice public affairs program dedicated to sharing news and perspectives on gender and justice. We believe in the importance of public awareness and conversation about these issues. We aim to foster a forum for discussion where we can raise voices and perspectives that are otherwise not heard and encourage action that will generate change.
Just a reminder that the following views and opinions expressed on this show are only those of the producers and guests and are not necessarily those of Case Western Reserve University, WRUW FM, and its staff or management. Good evening, Voices and Choices audience. Tonight we'll be interviewing some esteemed members of PFLAG Cleveland. We have in studio Dr. Sharon Groh-Wargo, Quentin Jamieson, and Frank Groh-Wargo. We will be right back with them after this quick break. Please stay tuned for an hour of enlightenment and interesting conversation. Thank you.
Hey, you are like a butterfly. You are me. Hey, then swallowed everything inside. Then swallowed. Hey.
Welcome back to Voices and Choices. Tonight we have in studio 3 members of PFLAG Cleveland. First, we have Dr. Sharon Groh-Wargo, who has been an active member of PFLAG Cleveland for many years and president since 2005. Sharon set up PFLAG to meet other parents of gay children when her daughter came out at the end of her freshman year in college. What she found was a warm and welcoming group of dedicated volunteers living the PFLAG mission of support, education, and advocacy. Her energy is sustained by witnessing the remarkable personal growth of the many individuals and families she is privileged to meet through PFLAG. Sharon is a full professor of nutrition and pediatrics at Case Western Reserve University School of Medicine and the neonatal nutritionist for Metro Health Medical Center. She is a founding member of Metro Health's Gay Straight Alliance. Sharon is a member of Equality Ohio and participates in their state leadership meetings and annual lobby days in Columbus. Sharon and her husband Frank, who we also have on air this evening, have been married for 39 years and have 2 adult children. Lauren and her wife May reside in Columbus. Danny, a recent college graduate, is just back from teaching English in Thailand and heading to graduate school, although she is too humble to say it, at Harvard Law. Sharon and Frank are federal members of the Human Rights Campaign. And just to piggyback off of that, we also have Frank J. Groh-Wargo, practicing attorney and principal of his law firm, Frank J. Groh-Wargo Company, LPA, located in Berea. He has been in private practice for 34 years, concentrating in business transactions, business litigation, employment, civil rights, and real estate law.
And our third guest in the studio is Quentin Jamieson. He's been coming to PFLAG since October 2008 and has since served on the advisory board. When at his first meeting, Sharon asked if he knew anything about websites. The rest is history. He primarily serves as a technical contact for the board, managing its digital assets, such as the website, while also assisting with print media and logo control. Quentin's primary goal as a board member is to increase PFLAG's membership through the impact of its digital web and print media. An Amherst, Ohio native, his career path has taken him to New Mexico Tech, where he earned his BS in astrophysics, and back home to Case Western Reserve University, where he is pursuing a PhD in cellular and molecular biophysics. He has played an active role in student government since 2007, serving for over 5 years in the CWRU Graduate Student Senate 2, of which were as its first openly gay president. He is also an avid outdoorsman, photographer, cook, and volunteer. Welcome to all three of you.
Thank you for that great introduction.
Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you for sending in such thorough bios. It's so great to know.
Exciting.
I think the most important question to start off this evening for members of our audience who do not already know, what is PFLAG specifically first? What does PFLAG stand for?
Well, I'd be happy to talk about that. PFLAG stands for Parents, Families, and Friends of Lesbians and Gays. It is over 30 years old. The Cleveland chapter is one of over 400 national chapters, so it is a national organization. Cleveland's chapter is over nearly 30 years old, and PFLAG started primarily as a parent support group. Jean Manford started the first PFLAG chapter as a way to support her son. So most people think of it as a parent support group, but it has branched into both education and advocacy, and the Cleveland chapter works on all three of those fronts. So it's primarily a parent support group, but we do education and advocacy, and we are made up of volunteers and part of the National PFLAG organization. Quentin or Frank, would you like to add anything to that?
I would like to point out that the Cleveland chapter has a particularly strong support group led by Dr. Jess Sellers, who's on faculty here at Kaser Administration, and Jane Daroff, who started the Cleveland chapter. And the fact that a PhD psychologist leads our group sessions makes our group sessions especially effective because we have the parents coming to our PFLAG support group meetings, plus we have their gay children come, and sometimes the children come without the parents or the parents come later. And it's a very enriching group, and it's a strong support group.
Yeah, I think one of the strengths of PFLAG Cleveland is again, not just that parents of families and friends are coming, but also the sons, the daughters, the friends, students in local universities are showing up, and they're all part of one large, diverse group seeking support and education and advocacy.
Excellent. Well, I know, Sharon, it was touched upon in your bio, but if you'd like to expand on it, if either Frank or Quentin, you have anything to add, how did each of you become involved with PFLAG and become such involved members?
Well, I'll speak, as you mentioned, it was a little bit of part of my bio. After our daughter came out at the end of her freshman year in college, which is now over 10 years ago, while it was a shock to Frank and I, we, totally supported our daughter, but the experience of having a lesbian child is different than having friends who are lesbians or have lesbian children. So we found the feeling of isolation, not necessarily knowing a lot of people in the community. So my impulse was to try to find other parents of gay children in the Cleveland area that I could talk to, and that is exactly what I found. So that was my motivation for getting involved.
Yeah, so I had the great pleasure of knowing Jane Duroff through the university, and I was just starting to break out of my shell and stop doing just research as a lab rat, and started to make some social connections, but also tapping into some skills I had, such as my tech geekiness, which PFLAG Cleveland recognized through Sharon very quickly at my first support group meeting. And I had come out to my parents in 2001, and we had a rocky start, but over the years had really grown together and had grown to accept one another. And so my main mission was not to seek support so much as it was to help an advisory board be involved in a nonprofit organization and find my niche there. And that's my story.
Going back to Sharon and I, this is Frank. When our daughter came out in 1999, it totally surprised us as parents. It was kind of funny because we had friends that we had gone to college with who were a lesbian couple who had visited our home, who we had socialized with, who always stayed together in our home. We never hid this from our children. And we thought we were just, open to a child coming out. But when your child actually tells you he or she is gay, it changes your whole orientation and your expectations as a parent in terms of what you look to for her future or his future. And it really did rock our world, but it also, and I have said this quite often, it did bring our family closer together. It opened levels of communication that I thought we had, but we didn't. And it's really turned out to be a wonderfully positive thing in our life, and we love our daughter's spouse, and we are very fortunate.
And I think what we found by attending PFLAG and getting to know all the really wonderful people who are involved with PFLAG is an incredibly rich community of friends for us. Our daughter, unfortunately, doesn't live in town, and we see them as much as we can, but PFLAG has become such a huge part of our social network with all the wonderful people that we've met there. And I think when you experience that kind of communication in your family, it really enriches your life. And we find that through PFLAG, a lot of those connections are really strong for us now. Quentin, did you want to add something?
Sure. I guess in a way, for those from a kid's perspective, children of families that are coming out, some may not have the most affirming experience, and as they're looking to figure out how do they reconnect with their parents, and if they can't reconnect with their parents, how can they kind of form a surrogate family? And PFLAG Cleveland really supports children that are coming out and who are looking for support, who are looking for advice, father figures, mother figures, and
right.
PFLAG Cleveland provides that.
We get a lot of young people at our meetings. I think sometimes it's not well known that it's not just parents there, but a lot of young people in various stages of coming out to themselves and others. And it's sort of like a place to practice the coming out experience. We have had many people not out to their parents. PFLAG is sometimes the first place that they come out, and it gives them sort of a safe environment to do that, adults to talk with about that, and sort of practice, if you will, how they're going to do that with their parents, and to hear other parents talk about that experience from their point of view. So it just leads to a lot of understanding on both sides.
Right. There often is a lot of angst. Parents will show up for the first time, and truly they look like a deer in headlights. And not every story obviously turns out successful, but we've had many, many positive stories where parents will come to a first support group meeting, and they'll be very nervous, and they'll be very hurt that their child came out. And over the months, we've seen unbelievable changes in parents slowly learning to accept their children and then ultimately celebrate the lives of their children who have come out. And to see that transition in the power of the support group sessions is truly amazing. But again, I do want to emphasize it doesn't necessarily happen in every situation. and some families have a much harder time, and some parents do reject their children. But PFLAG is a resource, and it can help provide alternatives and other places where these young people can turn for the support that they need. And hopefully in the future, it does take time. Sometimes families who are reticent to support their child, they do come around, hopefully.
I have a couple questions, just kind of like to touch on things we talked about already. Can you talk a little bit about what exactly happens in a support group meeting? I mean, we have a little bit of an idea just by what you're sharing, but like, is there an agenda? Is there
Yes.
sort of like the same thing each time?
That's
that
a
you
great
can-
question. That's
Okay.
a great question. They do, there are hundreds of chapters across the country and, 20 or more in Ohio. And the support group meetings do vary a little bit city to city or chapter to chapter. But the Cleveland support group, I think, is fairly typical in that we gather at about 7 or 7:30 in the evening, and we meet at Trinity Commons in downtown Cleveland. And Trinity's been our home for our whole existence in Cleveland. And while we're really grateful for the wonderful space that they allow us to use, we do not emphasize that we're not affiliated with any particular religious institution, but that is where we meet, and it's on the website if you want to check that out. But anyway, we gather between 7 and 7:30, and at about 7:30 the meeting comes to order, and we sit in a circle. And the average number of people at a support group meeting traditionally has been between like 35 and 40, but lately we have been getting routinely 40 to 50 or more people at a monthly meeting. So it can be a large group. So we sit in a circle, and like Frank was mentioning, we're led by we have just wonderful support group moderators, Dr. Jess Sellers and Jane Darf, who've been leading the group since the Cleveland chapter's inception in 1985. So they have just a wealth of experience of running this support group. It's wonderful. So we start the meeting, I usually make a few announcements, the picnic's coming up, or, how was that movie that we went to, or the Indians game, or whatever social thing we're doing. And then Jane and Jess start us off, and we go around the circle, and people are given, a real brief amount of time, maybe 30 seconds or more, so that we can make it around the whole circle, just to introduce themselves. Frank and I usually say something like, we have 2 children. Our older child is our daughter, came out at the end of year of her freshman year in college, and we have a younger child, a son, who's straight and his sister's ally. So something just really quick to introduce yourself. And we go around the whole circle doing that. And then that often takes, 45 minutes to an hour. And then Jane and Jess come back to people who are there for the first time or maybe the second time, or anybody who feels like they need a little extra time, but particularly focusing on people who are there, for the first time, to give them a little chance, if they want to talk about what brought them there. Most people take advantage of that. Occasionally we'll get people who they don't want to talk quite yet, and that is totally fine. They just want to listen. And then the new people will say a little bit about their situation, and people they may ask other members in the group, well, did this ever happen to you? And members will say, yes, it did, or this is what I thought, or this happened to us. And there's just like an exchange of ideas. And then somewhere around 9:15 or so, we sort of finish up, and then in the room we're in, there are snacks, and we break up, and people can enjoy the snacks and talk to each other in little groups. And we're out of the room by like 9:30 or 9:45. Quentin,
a group of 50 people in a circle seems really large and overwhelming, but it's really not 50 different stories that you're hearing. So many of us are strangers, but we all have a common story. And it turns out there's only so many combinations or permutations of the story of coming out, whether it's from a child's experience, a parent's experience. And that's something that's really empowering for the group, is that we all come together with something in common, and suddenly we're no longer strangers. We're a community. We're a large family sharing a story, communicating with each other.
The thing that amazes me, Sharon and I will be driving home after a meeting, and it's the power of the group. Everyone does have different experiences, though, and everyone comes from a different perspective. And the group is made up of people from all sorts of different socioeconomic backgrounds. And as a group, what people add is powerful and helpful. And we all kind of play off each other. Mm-hmm. And if someone comes in, a new person, and thinks they have a story that probably no one's heard, more than likely we have someone sitting there who has experienced something similar to that person, and they can have a conversation about it, and they can get direction, they can listen, or we can listen to what he or she has to say.
So you all have spoken a lot about what personally you've gotten out of your involvement with PFLAG, which has been wonderful to hear, but I think to help fully understand the organization, what is the drive of PFLAG nationally, and not just within the Cleveland area or not even just Ohio, because I've seen there are several chapters.
Right. The organization nationally is a very bottom-down organization. The national office is in Washington, D.C., and it has, I believe, 8 full-time paid staff. Pretty small, actually. So then the country is divided into 3 sections, and each of those 3 sections has a field manager, and our person is well known to us. She's wonderful. And she works with regions within her big third of the United States. So, for example, Cleveland is in the Great Lakes region, which is Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, and Ohio. And then each state is organized. There's a state director. Ours happens to live in Lima, and we have monthly state conference calls where all of the a chapter representative from each of the chapters gets together on a conference call and just shares sort of what's working, what's not, what's going on in their chapter, and share ideas and whatnot. So there's the local chapter level, and then the state chapter, and then we in Cleveland sponsored the regional conference 2 years ago here in Cleveland. And then there's a national convention every other year. The national one's coming up in this fall. It'll be in Washington. So I would say the biggest push nationally is that while they want to maintain this really sturdy support group basis, they are interested in moving forward into education and advocacy because it's time for that. It's not that people still need support, but many of us are moving forward. So they have all kinds of educational programs centered around schools, around faith communities, around health care. And then on the advocacy front, because PFLAG is a 501c3, we don't support specific candidates, but we are very involved in issue-oriented activism. So we were involved with the Don't Ask, Don't Tell situation. We've done ENDA, Employment Non-Discrimination work. In Ohio, it's the Equal Housing and Employment Act. So we were involved with the City of Cleveland and Cuyahoga County Domestic Partner Benefit push. So I think nationally they're trying to move us into education and advocacy because that's where the country is moving. Quentin or Frank?
So the saying is that when you no longer need PFLAG, PFLAG needs you, and it turns out things get better during the stormy period of time when you're moving towards acceptance within your family. That eventually you've learned a lot of skills and tools in your toolbox that you can help give to others, and that's where you can contribute when it comes to education, when it comes to advocacy, when it comes to offering educational programs in the community, talking with schools, churches, synagogues, and other places of worship. But also, if you need to write to the editor because of something in the local paper you read, it's your opportunity to tell the world what you've learned in PFLAG Cleveland.
One time, Sharon and I actually were on a panel at a local church that wanted to become open and affirming, which essentially means that church wanted to welcome their entire congregation, outwardly, gay people, LGBT community people. And when Sharon and I did that panel, they'd asked me to review the Ohio statute and the Ohio constitutional amendment that was passed in 2004 that was so discriminatory. And they are probably some of the most restrictive laws in the country that are discriminate against, specifically in our Constitution, against LGBT people. And we talked about that. And when we talk about advocacy, and Ohio has a long way to go here, and there's a lot of issues that are at the forefront, and PFLAG as a 501c3 supports the issue for equality, which is which is sorely needed, and we can all see where the country's going with the recent Supreme Court opinions. I think with the demographic changes, I think your generation, our hosts here, your generation is really stepping to it. And I think as time goes on, things will change. But obviously, when it comes to equal rights, it's never quick enough.
So you spoke a lot to what's going on in Ohio and how we have such a long way to go here. Being from Massachusetts, where gay marriage has been legalized for a while, longer than I can remember. So from an outsider looking in, things kind of look backwards to me. And as members of PFLAG, I'm sure it's a similar viewpoint.
Right, definitely. I mean, we look to, with pride and some envy, to our other states that are making so much progress. It's actually controversial in Ohio right now because the push for marriage equality is making tremendous strides, which is wonderful. But in Ohio, we have, a long way to go. And Quentin and Frank and I were talking earlier in the evening that I'm afraid that if we push too hard for marriage equality before we get employment non-discrimination, for example, somebody could get married and bring their wedding picture and put it on their desk and then get fired from their job because it's fine, you can get married, but don't bring it to work. So we are very, PFLAG is involved with Equality Ohio and other lobbying organizations to try to, get not just marriage equality, but all other, anti-bullying and housing and employment.
Yep. Don't worry, Steph. We're behind Massachusetts on that, but how Ohio goes, as we all know politically, the rest of the country will follow.
And it's been proven in other states in the nation that there are certain things you need to get passed before you can get marriage equality forward, and that includes anti-bullying laws, equal housing laws, employment non-discrimination laws, and those are three things that currently Ohio does not have. And until we have those, I think marriage needs to wait.
Right. I mean, right now, and many people don't understand this, that you can still be fired for being gay or being trans or whatever. If you're out, it can threaten your employment, which is not a place that we want to be.
Thankfully, at Case Western Reserve University, though, we do have protections for those in domestic partner registries.
Yes, Case is actually...
And health benefits. It's great.
Case is actually, Quentin, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I think Case is on the forefront of being an extremely open and affirming college campus and received some kudos for that, right?
Yeah, President Snyder and Deputy Provost Lynn Singer received the HRC Leadership Award in 2006, I think it was.
That's right.
For advancing equal rights on campus.
Thank you, Case.
So we're going to take a quick break from this conversation. We're going to bring you a few tunes, and then we'll be back to talk some more with our lovely members of PFLAG, so please stay tuned.
Sweet
in a place that's filled with mature, healthy trees.
Nice thought, isn't it?
But tree-filled communities don't just happen. They take planning.
So start now. Visit planning.org.
A message from the American Planning Association.
It's about truth. It's about truth. It's about justice. It's about justice. It's about standing up for what's right. It's about fairness. It's about fairness. It's about you. It's about you. It's about me. It's about me. It's about us. It's about us. It's about justice. 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 It's about justice.
Saturdays, 1:30 p.m. to 2:30 p.m., 91.1, a voice for the voiceless.
Welcome back to Voices and Choices here on WRUW. Tonight we are interviewing three esteemed members of PFLAG Cleveland, Dr. Sharon Groh-Wargo, her husband Frank, and Quentin Jamieson, a PhD candidate here at Case Western Reserve University. So just in our quick break, all of us were talking, and one of the things that we haven't really discussed yet is what were your experience with LGBT issues growing up? How much exposure did you have to this what's cause community, because there is a generation gap
Right,
here in studio.
Definitely, there's a generation gap. Frank and I are, let's just say, older adults.
Wiser
Adults, thank you. So, yeah, I think we can really see a generation difference for the lesbian couple that we mentioned who are our age, friends of ours for many, many years. When they attended the wedding that we had for our daughter and her partner, which, of course, they couldn't get a marriage license in the state of Ohio, but we definitely had a big party. They were so overcome by the community family response and the public nature of the big wedding that we had that was just so out of their understanding of their personal experience. They just really were overcome with the event.
Yeah, my daughter's great aunt came, who was almost 90 years old at the time. Sharon's mom, my daughter's grandmother, who was almost 80 years old. And when the two elderly women attended and supported this wedding that we threw, we had almost 200 people there, family and cousins and friends. And it really set an example for the family. And if there were family members who had doubts or who thought, wow, this is strange, if they were at that wedding, they participated and saw how things could be.
I think you could almost divide, that generation, the 80-year-old pluses having, it just wasn't talked about at all. And then in Frank and I's generation, you might talk about it, but only to a selected group. And then you go down to our children's generation, which is pretty much the demographic of most of the people in the studio. It's not only just that you're talking about it, you're living your life fully out at work and agitating now for, not being satisfied with just people directly not being mean to you, but actually full inclusion. And that's, so that, I think you can just see that change through the generations. It's wonderful.
Yeah, when growing up, I went to an all-boys Catholic high school here in Cleveland, and there were boys that had more effeminate characteristics, and other boys would say, "Oh, they're femmes." That was the word. People that used the word "gay" back then, and it was pretty much swept under the table. And when I started my career in my law practice, you'd be at lunch with a bunch of guys, and they'd be talking about, oh, so-and-so's lighting the loafers and all these goofy things. And I've never felt comfortable in those situations. But, boy, the change, even since I've been practicing, in how people talk about the issue, people have been sensitized. They may not agree, but they're sure as heck going to watch what they say in the company they keep, because they now don't know with whom they're speaking.
And I think one of the things about PFLAG, when you come out and you are empowered by that group, you are comfortable telling your story, you are bolstered by the support, and then you widen that support group, you tell so many more people. And the very clear fact of acceptance, the single most important thing that sways people, is knowing somebody. And we have seen that over and over again. Once somebody, I mean, they may know them and they don't know them, right? They think they don't know them. But once you know somebody, whether it's in your family or your friend group, and that person is in front of you, that is a very, very powerful influence on your attitude. So as the thing I love about PFLAG is it helps not only LGBT people to come out, but for their families to sort of come out too. What do we say in PFLAG? When the child comes out, sometimes the parent goes in the closet for a while until they sort of adjust to it. But once that parent is comfortable, bolstered by PFLAG, and they start coming out in their work environment, their faith community, their local community, it's like a pebble in a pool of water that has just a ripple effect, and it's moving opinion.
Yes, sometimes the trick is just getting to that first person that you do know. And I remember as a teenager in a small suburban rural high school where everyone was white and straight, that I definitely felt very isolated. And it's very scary. You really do have to find that first person that you can trust. And, failing having those friends that you can trust and failing finding a support group within your community, there are PFLAG chapters out there. And if you can reach out, maybe your first connection, the first affirming experience you'll have is someone sitting across from you at a support group meeting.
And I will say, and Quentin, who was just speaking, is our wonderful webmaster, and if you've not gone to our website, you need to go, www.pflagcleveland.org.
And when are the meetings, Sharon?
And the meetings are the second Tuesday of every month at 7:30. But the website is a great source of information, and even if you are isolated in a rural place, you're a young person, can't get to a meeting, starting at that website would be tremendously helpful. Right now we have posted on the website, how many, Quentin? 9 YouTube videos of It Gets Better. We made It Gets Better videos from PFLAG, and they're posted on the website, and they're just really, really affirming. So for young people or older folks as well, I think that, parents, I think going on the website and seeing those resources, watching the videos can be very helpful.
Yeah, you mentioned that It Gets Better videos, and I love that whole campaign. It was started by a personal hero of mine, Dan Savage, who is a hilarious and remarkable man and someone to look up to in the gay community. And just listening to all of your experiences, although I am from Massachusetts, I was raised Catholic, so there is that back and forth. And I remember back when gay marriage was an issue for us, a petition being handed around my church opposing the passing of gay marriage, and the Catholic Church doesn't like that all the time, mostly, although there are some.
Right, religion is a very, very common topic in PFLAG support group meetings. Very common topic. In Northeast Ohio is a huge Catholic community, so we have many, many Catholics come, but other religious denominations as well, and it is a big hurdle for some families. We have a really nice booklet called Faith in the Family, which is very helpful. There's a movie that we've watched several times as a group called For the Bible Tells Me So. And I guess I just want to remind people or tell people that not all, there are many, many religions that are just very open and affirming. And we have many members of PFLAG, including rabbis, Lutheran ministers, United Church of Christ folks, Disciples of Christ, Methodists. We really have very, very many members that will give ideas for support through their faith communities.
And a number of them are ministers themselves that come to the support group meetings. So if there are religious, biblical type issues, those are discussed, and it's nice to have, the experts, the ministers, the trained theologians.
Right. One of the secretary of PFLAG, she's on the advisory board, Marianne Buccini, is very active within the Catholic community and is a great source of information and support specifically for people with questions about the Catholic sort of thing. And she is part of a group, I'm forgetting the name of Fortunate Families, which is a Catholic organization of supporting parents. And I believe that there are, Quentin, you'll tell me on the website, I believe that there are links to several of those resources under the resources button.
You mentioned the pamphlet. Is that something that is downloadable, or is that something you can borrow or look at if you are at a meeting?
Well, it's certainly at a meeting. There's always pamphlets, not only the brochure, which just gives sort of basic information, but we have specific pamphlets for parents. And on the faith issue, we have one for the LGBT person themselves. We have some things in Spanish. And we also have, and we've been meaning to mention this, a booklet for the straight spouse. These are people who have a spouse who came out and often have left the marriage, and the straight spouse is left with, things that are individual to that person. So we have a booklet entitled Help for the Straight Spouse, and in Cleveland we're really, really lucky to have one of only two straight spouse networks that meets the fourth Wednesday of every month. And there's information on our website about it, a phone number that you can contact, and it's called Straight Spouse Network, fourth Wednesday of every month for straight spouses.
Yeah, because we do have a few members who were married, had children, a male and female, and then came out later in life, and each has their own story. Some, right. The straight spouse has been supportive, some the straight spouse has been angered. It's obviously a difficult, but it's also part of the mission of PFLAG.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and if you're not writing all this down, we do have a very elaborate resources page on our website, PFLAGCleveland.org. If you're not in the Cleveland area and you're hearing us from Dayton or even Columbus or Akron, there are several chapters throughout the state that you can access. We have a lot of resources on LGBT youth resources, religious resources, GSA resources, Greater Cleveland, State of Ohio, national resources that you can access on our website. So if you're looking for information, there is no shortage there.
Yeah, a GSA is a gay straight alliance, which is often in schools, and Sharon's been involved with one at Metro Health.
Thank you. You mentioned the straight spouse group that meets. Would that be something that would be a good venue for someone to go to who's maybe not just spouse but partner is has come out as transgender and is going through the process of transitioning? Would that be a meeting, for that experience?
I don't know if the Cleveland Straight Spouse Network specifically has dealt with somebody who's come out as transgender, although I wouldn't be surprised if they have, because we are seeing increasing numbers of transgender folks at our meeting, and we accept all, it's the whole alphabet list, right? LGBT.
Yeah, we keep saying lesbian and gay, but like you mentioned at the break, this is a support for transgender people as well.
Absolutely. So, some in the PFLAG name, it's Parents, Family, and Friends of Lesbians and Gays, and the T is not mentioned. And, it's unfortunate that, we've had this name for this long and that the T is not expressed. Some people will say it's a silent T because the transgender folks are definitely welcome, and we certainly want them to feel like PFLAG is a place for them. And
even if you don't associate with the letter, the whole spectrum is we're affirming of all sexual orientations and gender identities.
And we get a lot of, especially young people, straight allies. They're just looking for a place, they don't have anybody in particular. They're just passionate about the issue, want to support their friends or whatever, just feel like it from a justice standpoint. It's a good place. And, come on in. We have plenty to do.
And as Frank mentioned, and as was mentioned in your bio, Sharon, you founded the GSA at Metro Health. If you wanted to expand upon that, or all three of you, how PFLAG and general LGBT activism has influenced or affected you professionally?
Right, absolutely. My PFLAG involvement certainly emboldened me to be active at my workplace, which is Metro Health Medical Center. And the way we got started is there was an in-service on the perinatal floor about lesbians who were having babies and their experience at Metro. A lesbian couple came to talk to the staff at Metro Health about their experience at Metro as a lesbian couple having a baby, because I work in pediatrics, so we have a close relationship with the OBGYN department. So a bunch of us went to hear this lesbian couple talk about it, and after it was an excellent presentation. Afterwards, we're all standing at the back of the room, and nobody wanted to leave because we sort of found each other, all the people at Metro Health who were passionate about this issue, and we're like, well, we should keep meeting. So we formed a GSA, a Gay Straight Alliance, to try to advance, to make sure that there was visitation, to work on the domestic partner benefits issue, to make sure there was employment non-discrimination clauses in the employment pieces of paper. So yes, I definitely think there's plenty to work, not only through PFLAG, but your workplace. And many of us on the board carry multiple hats. I know Quentin's very involved with HRC as well as PFLAG, and I'm involved with my Gay Straight Alliance, and Marian Buccini is involved with Fortunate Families, and as well as PFLAG. So a lot of us get involved outside of PFLAG, professionally.
Yeah, HRC is the Human Rights Campaign, and they are a politically active group. They are not a 501c3. But they've been in the forefront of the fight against DOMA, the Supreme Court cases, and things like that. And Cleveland's HRC group is really an amazing group of people here in town. And
very active.
Yes.
I wish I had a GSA in my undergrad institution, but I know Case Western Reserve does have one. It's called Spectrum. It's a USG-recognized student group for LGBTQIA, etc. So if you're on campus and you're looking for support locally, you might check them out. There's spectrum.case.edu.
And the LGBT Center on Case's campus is wonderful. It's
beautiful, recently redone.
Yes. Is it considered part of Thwing or attached to Thwing, or how's that work?
It's a hall, I would say, off of Twing's Student Center.
Beautiful,
yeah, it's a good place to study and hang out. I actually have a lot of meetings in the school year during there. And I guess one of my last questions I would like to ask is, I know from working with Sharon that LGBT activism and the community comes up a lot in everyday conversation, and it's something that's great, and it's something that she's proud of, and it's something that's really cool to witness. So I guess my question to Frank and Quentin is, have you had a similar experience? Are you having these conversations, as I see Sharon has, almost on a daily basis? I don't want to say it's bringing awareness, but it's bringing normalcy to the idea of LGBT awareness.
Yeah, I absolutely do. I'm sure all of my clients who know me know I have a gay daughter, and I've had some very interesting conversations. I mean, you get these kind of older business people who you think are going to be, not tolerant, and as soon as you tell them in your one-on-one, they're like, "Oh yeah, Frank, I got a gay niece," or and it opens the door in the conversation. And I'm as bad as Sharon, I guess, in terms of just talking and keeping it out there. And I think, sometimes maybe I wonder why I do it, but I think it's from an activist standpoint and I think we all want acceptance, and I want my daughter to be accepted, and I want people who know me to accept me because my daughter's gay, and I guess I want that out there up front. Because I don't want to become friends with someone or have someone as a client for 6 months, and then all of a sudden they say, "Oh, I can't." I don't want them to say in front of me, "I hate gay people," because they would be embarrassed, I would be embarrassed, and then I would have to say something. If they know it up front and they have those feelings, and then they get to know me, hopefully that will help them like move along and accept and see the other gay people in their lives, which they're there.
You know, I'd love to have more conversations myself. It's easy to get stuck in a laboratory setting as a PhD student and not talk to anyone except your computer. But I did get a lot of opportunity when I was president of the Graduate Student Senate to speak with a lot of other graduate students. And, you know, sometimes it would come up in conversation, and someone that's looking for a social or a peer group through the Senate, they might be LGBT, they might not be, but it's an opportunity to tell them, you know, I am an openly gay president. It's safe. No one's after me. And I think telling positive stories like that to others, whether or not they come out to you as LGBT or not, is affirming, and it helps them think there's a supportive atmosphere here, which there is.
I'm looking for the day when a gay person doesn't have to come out and discuss his or her sexual orientation, that we are who we are. And the fact that, you know, I'm an openly gay president, for instance, what you had to do, Quentin, that in some time in the future would be purely become a non-issue.
Just as you wouldn't have to say, I'm an openly straight president, right?
Right, absolutely, because it's nobody's business, really.
I know, it's one of my favorite things in PFLAG. A new parent generally will be sort of, you know, deer in the headlights kind of thing, and say to a young person at a PFLAG meeting, well, how do you know? You're so young. How could you know if you're gay? And then you say back to that parent, well, when did you figure out that you were straight? And they look at you like, I kind of always knew. Right.
Well, you've all made such great points this evening, and it has been so interesting to listen to all of your perspectives, because it's not one that's often expressed here on Voices and Choices in particular, because we're often looking from not the other side, but kind of the younger generation's view and being members of the LGBT community, et cetera, et cetera. So unfortunately, we are just about at the end of our hour together, and I would like to thank each of you. Again, this has been Dr. Sharon Groh-Wargo, Frank Groh-Wargo, and Quentin Jamieson, all from Cleveland PFLAG. And if you could, again, reiterate the information of the Cleveland PFLAG meetings for anyone who has liked what they've heard this evening, and I'm being showed the information now. It is the second Tuesday of every month, 7:30 to 9:30 p.m. at the Trinity Cathedral. And you can go online to PFLAGCleveland.org if you would like to find out any more information there. So thank you again, all three of you, for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was
hosting.
great.
So Voices and Choices, we actually have another hour lined up of feminist news and conversation and music, as Straight Up with Doxana is out for the week. So please stay tuned. We will be right back.